Alright, well I thought this could be an interesting idea for a video. In fact, so much so, I couldn't believe I hadn't already done one on this, which is the Chiefs' new look secondary. It's a huge question mark in my opinion, heading into this upcoming season, because they lost Sneed, who was their number one corner. What are they going to do to replace him? Now, you have Trent McDuffie. We're going to start off with him, and you also have Jalen Watson, and then you have Joshua Williams. Those are kind of the three key players, and so yeah, I mean, I could just talk about them forever, but we have film to discuss. Let's just use the film to talk about it. Before I do, though, real quick, just wanted to let you know I have a movie channel as well. If you're interested in a different kind of film study, you can click on the link in the description below. Tend to make movie reviews on sort of the big movies that come out. Also do some like tier list stuff like that. It's a fun time. Again, link is in the description if that's the kind of thing you might be interested in. But anyway, let's just get into this kind of film. First, I want to start off with something like this, where we're going to be discussing Trent McDuffie, and I think Trent McDuffie is a really interesting figure here because you see where he is on the field on this specific play. He's going to be covering Deebo Samuel one-on-one. You see that when this play begins, Samuel was in the slot, or I guess I should say when everyone started lining up, that's where Deebo Samuel lined up. However, that is the route that Samuel is going to be running, almost like a traditional wide receiver one type route. And I think the reason that the Niners are doing this is because on a 3rd and 14, hey, if we can get a one-on-one matchup down the field with a slot corner, like, sure, it's Trent McDuffie, it's an all-pro slot corner, but now we're asking him to do something he's not used to doing. So, Purdy is going to take the snap, he is going to eventually look down the field and eventually fire down the field, and you see right here, there just isn't a ton of separation. I would still defend the decision by Purdy to take this chance because, hey, if it works, you get a touchdown. If not, you try a long field goal. Maybe there's an interception possibility, but it's one-on-one in the end zone on a 3rd and 14. Hard to critique that decision too much. However, McDuffie made that play and was able to get the deflection. Quite frankly, McDuffie's a really good slot corner to the point where I do wonder if we start to see him play on the outside more. Maybe they test something like that because, I don't know, if you're playing a team who clearly has a number one wide receiver, if it's a 3rd and 7, do you maybe just put McDuffie on the outside, even if, or just put the McDuffie on that receiver, even if they're on the outside? Do you start that kind of thing? I could see it happening. Because again, a play like this, you see that, I've circled where McDuffie is on this play. He's covering Deebo Samuel once again. And I mean, you see, he just doesn't give any separation. I even made a video after the Super Bowl questioning if McDuffie was the guy who deserved the real, to be the Super Bowl MVP because he was so good. And well, again, no critiques of how it went down. Just saying McDuffie was certainly worthy of an honor like that with how well he played in that game. He's great, but he is still a slot corner, and you're going to have guys who can cover on the outside. So who are the contenders there? First, you have Joshua Williams, who I personally I would probably say is the better of the two other outside guys. This play, what's going to happen is he's covering Mark Andrews one-on-one, who, yes, is a tight end, but something Chiefs fans know a lot about is that sometimes a tight end can be a number one option, and on this play, that is the case. So when this play begins, Lamar's going to take the snap. He's planning on firing towards Mark Andrews, and on one hand, you could sit here and say, well, wait a second, Williams is giving up some space. Yeah, he is, but keep in mind the situation. It's a 2nd down and 15. The Chiefs aren't that mad about giving up 5 yards. Sure, it makes a field goal more likely and all that stuff, but it's not the end of the world if they give up a little bit of yards here. So as you see, Andrews still had to make a tough catch. Like, that still wasn't bad defense to give up those 5 yards, but that was kind of a compromise a bit. Williams is someone who definitely doesn't, I would say, does a pretty good job at being able to cover pretty consistently. There is, of course, the concern about just, situation and are you going to have to cover just more talented receivers at this point? Because like both these other two guys have their flaws and have their losses, and this is going to be Jalen Watson on this play, who, again, I really don't know who's going to be the number one corner on the outside and who's going to be the number two corner on the outside. It's not exactly how they view things, but like, I don't know who's going to get the tougher matchups. Here, though, in a key 3rd down in the Super Bowl, you have Watson going up one-on-one against Chris Conley. Not a big-time matchup, because, again, you have Sneed, you have Trent McDuffie, you're using these other corners corners on maybe not the most talented receivers. However, this time, you're going to see that when it begins, it's a well-ran route by Conley, but you notice that there is a window right here. This wasn't great coverage by Watson. And, okay, this is a loss of a rep. You're going to see that the throw was made and it's a completion. What I'm not trying to do here is I'm not trying to say Jaylen Watson is a bum. He's totally not. He's a good player. Just saying that he has his wins and he has his losses. Like the other side of the coin is something like this. This is, from a bit ago now. This is actually the AFC Championship game from 2 years ago. Can't be that long. He's only been in the league for 2 years. But you now have Jaylen Watson going up one-on-one against T. Higgins, who, okay, there's some debate as to whether or not T. Higgins is like a number 1 or just like a great number 2 receiver, but okay, that's still a tough matchup one-on-one. It's a 3rd down and 2, let's see what happens. Burrow takes the snap. He says, oh, hey, I have T. Higgins one-on-one. Let's fire it in that direction. But you see Watson has, gotten pretty far past Higgins at this point, knows what the route is and is able to get in position to where he actually leaped in front of Higgins and got the interception on that play, which is a big play in that football game. So, listen, he is someone who can win these one-on-ones against good players. But I do think it's fair to question just how good will these two guys be once they have to go up against good players consistently, or more consistently than they have been. Because again, there's plenty of teams that have good receivers, and it's not like it's not like Sneed has never not been up against number 1 corner. That was a lot of double negatives. It's not like these two guys have never gone up against good receivers. Of course, they've gone up against good receivers and have mostly had success. I think if you look at their kind of counting stats, they're more advanced analytical inclined stats. They're very good with both Williams and Watson, but of course, thing you have to mention is that they usually do get easier matchups, which is going to help out those numbers. It just is. So putting them in a number 1 spot, and the Chiefs don't just play, we'll help out our corners. They want their corners to play one-on-ones. They want to be able to blitz. They want to do a lot of different things. They put a lot of stress on their corners, and they need their corners to be able to come through. So rewatching the film and kind of coming with all of this, and again, I should mention, I said sort of Chiefs secondary. I could have included the safeties as well. Really what I wanted to do was the corners. But here's kind of the way I view all of this. Here are my final thoughts on it. Do I think this is going to be a disaster? Absolutely not. I just don't really see that happening. In terms of what are the percentages of it, I think unless there's an injury, I don't see that happening. Now, that's a concern. The fact that pretty much everyone else on the roster is like 6th or 7th round picks or undrafted guys in the secondary, that's a concern for me. Again, their entire starting group are made up of basically guys who were 6th or 7th round picks, so you can't be too concerned about it. But, still, I think it's fair to say, are they one injury away now from disaster, whereas last year they kind of weren't because they had Sneed along with these guys, right? But assuming there's no injury, I think the baseline is still a pretty solid secondary. I think the concern is that you could argue and I would argue, in fact, the best thing about this team other than Mahomes last year was their secondary. And so if that now goes down to just okay, or maybe even a weakness, but let's just say it goes down to just okay, that's a pretty massive disadvantage when it became, from last year to this year. It was such a strength last year. I do think it could hurt, but again, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Watson or Williams really steps it up and becomes a number 1 corner, or with McDuffie being able to still do enough nice stuff, they're able to be a complete secondary. I don't know. It's interesting, and it's something I'm definitely going to look towards this next year. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on all of this. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.